Welcome to Journey of One. This is a show where I travel around Southern California to check out fun events and interesting things to see. Oftentimes I'll be traveling on my own, showing that you can often have a unique experience when you travel solo, as well as showing that you can have a good time and enjoy life on your own, but if friends or family join you, then all the better. So, thanks for watching. Let's begin the journey. On this week's journey, I head to Irwindale at the Santa Fe Dam Recreation Area to check out the Renaissance Pleasure Faire. On the outer retaining wall of the dam was a path for people to jog, walk, or bike. The Santa Fe Dam Recreation Area is also a very nice and well-kept park, with a lake and beachfront, all scenically backdropped by the San Gabriel Mountains. That day was an overcast one that threatened rain. I kept hoping that it would hold off until the fair was over. I kinda liked the masks that were mounted on these trucks, kinda like a pirate-themed Mad Max style. As you enter, there are a few booths set up demonstrating life during this time period. I personally liked the blacksmith booth, where they were actually making stuff. Many people came dressed in period costumes, but for those that didn't, there were lots of booths where you could rent or buy some spot-on and well-made costumes. Just be prepared to pay for the quality. Some of these amazing pieces were out of my price range, and I was out of their size. There were many shops of all kinds, selling all sorts of fantastic and well-made goods to fit whatever your fantasy desired. One of the main highlights of visiting the Ren Fair is the variety of entertaining shows that they have scheduled throughout the day at stages all over the park. I was glad to come across this bird show, since at last week's visit to the LA Zoo, I missed their show, so it was cool to see some birds in action here, like this owl, and also to hear my favorite bird call from the Australian kookaburra bird. Most of the fair is very family friendly. However, for adults looking for a bit more body entertainment, there was the Rogues Reef stage and shows. One of the shows I managed to catch was stuntman Aaron Bonk, seen here with the sign language interpreter for the deaf who came to see the shows. Here you can see Aaron, with the help of an audience volunteer, setting up his 5 knives of demise trick, where he balanced and juggled 5 very real and sharp blades. He also showed off some impressive whip techniques and dance moves, cracking them loudly before pulling out his flame whips for a fiery finale. The Renaissance Fair covered quite a bit of area, and walking around builds up quite a hunger, so I headed to the food court to grab a bite. Once there, my appetite grew tenfold smelling all the delicious foods being served. Authentic and diverse dishes with something for any taste. But be warned, this is a dangerous place for those on a diet. Just look at the size of the turkey leg this finely dressed couple were eating. I particularly enjoyed all the talented bands and musicians that played around the park. I'll let you listen to a few samples. One of the most entrancing performers was this woman who used the fabric to do a beautiful dance and gymnastic tricks 10 to 20 feet off the ground. Next, I came across all the games and activities you could play or try out. This one was a race to raise their flying device first. If you've ever wanted to try out throwing weapons like in the movies, they had several varieties to choose from knife and ninja stars, to axes, thrown like a champ by this lady, to even javelins, which weren't as easy to throw effectively as they might seem. I decided to try out archery, something I loved doing as a kid once before. Seemed simple enough to pick back up. The first few arrows went okay, then I got cocky and pulled back too hard, nailing my wrist with the bowstring, leaving a nasty bruise. I later tried my hand at the hammer. Didn't ring the bell, but made it to the top button at least like this guy. I, however, was most frustrated my old baseball skills were too rusty to dunk this hilarious guy who taunted me and the audience, daring anyone to try and dunk him. Many came close, but he stayed dry as long as I watched. I next came to the Fool's Maze, which I felt was calling my name to try and find my way through. It wasn't the largest maze ever, but it was a bit tricky. I tried cheating by using my camera to look over the walls, but I was still too short to see the path out. Before long, though, I found the exit and was able to ring the victory bell. For those visiting with kids, you'll be pleased to know that there was a lot of fun activities and places for them to enjoy in the Kids' Kingdom and around the park. Unfortunately, I was too big a kid to try out these waterproof balls. It looked like so much fun to play in, though. I was also envious of these kids on the bungee ropes and trampolines. It's for the best I didn't do it. I wouldn't have wanted to show them up. There was also a maze for the kids in this bouncy house that looked way funner than the maze I did. For the more adventurous kids and teens, there was a cool zip line they could go down. Also, of course, for the kids who love animals, there were pony rides, as well as a petting zoo with a bunch of cute, docile animals to pet. At the Queen's College, there were workshops and tables where you could learn how to make a wide variety of crafts, from candles to necklaces and other jewelry. I noticed a large crowd passing through. At the front of this parade was a host of noblemen and ladies, who were following the Queen herself to the arena for the Queen's jousting event. At the beginning of the joust, they showed off their mighty new recruits of young soldiers, who showed off their musket skills, as well as running off some fierce men with the Charging Sword Brigade. This lady of chivalry introduced the 3 knights who would be competing that day. Our knight was Maximilian, who I thought had the best showmanship for sure. Here is the blue knight, I believe named Reginald, who was another crowd favorite. They put on their fancy helmets after a couple quick skill challenges as they got ready for the joust. And this was no joke or facade of a joust. They really went after each other, breaking lances and shields on each pass. Here you can see the Blue Knight actually impaling the Green Knight's shield, gaining bonus points, which helped him to a victory for the joust overall. On the way out of the joust, there were many demonstrations and lessons in weaponry and fighting. Here this man is explaining the difference between a knife and a dagger, and a short sword and a long sword. Do you know the differences? There were many yeomen of the Queen's Guard about, charged to protect the Queen and the nobles, and even this lady. On my way out, I caught this parade of the Dance Macabre group going through the streets in order to lure death away. Fortunately, my prayers were answered and the rain stayed away, and I thoroughly enjoyed my day at the fair. It's still ongoing, so be sure to visit if you get the chance. Thanks as always for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and check back next week as I go on another Journey of One.